Hello, namaskar, namaskara, namaskaram, namaskar. My name is Pooja Dwivedi. Welcome to my class where we will understand from an unbiased prism what is actually happening in New Haryana. In these kind of circumstances, we often suffer from amygdala hijack. Amygdala hijack is an irrational response to threat. That means in normal circumstances, you may be giving another sort of response, but in amygdala hijack, what do? Your amygdala, which is responsible for giving rational responses, gets hijacked by emotions. Emotions run high, particularly in this period of the time when we are seeing communal riots. But as future bureaucrats, we have to think from an unbiased and a straight perspective. Clearly, the biggest wrong in the entire situation in the country is the law and order, the criminal justice system, which is lagging so much behind. It needs reform so that people start fearing law and order. There is a lack of any sort of legislation that can hold mobs accountable. That is why we are seeing so much mob riots, mob lynching, mob harassment of women, because there is a lack of proper legislation. But currently, I would like to denounce whatever has taken place in New, setting ablaze police vans, stations, even cyber cells. Is this the way a country, an educated country, should respond to something that could have been handled with the help of law and justice? We will understand it from that perspective only. So, before I begin, I would like to tell you that we have launched our P2I batches. P2I batches will prepare you for the Foundation Plus interview. That means prelims test series, mains test series, daily answer writing practice, current affairs module, everything is provided here. And we also have to think it from this perspective, because many of the students do not know how to write answers, how to do strategy making. Still, you have time. Please take admission. It's available in Hindi, English and English. A mains residential program is also available for those students who are going to qualify prelims 2024. Please, till you have time, do take admission, and you have to just give us 29,999. This batch is going to start from 11th of August. This is a morning batch. If you are by chance missing out on any sort of class, you will get it in the recorded version as well. Just use this code PDLive. Okay. So let's begin. What has actually happened? But before that, do not make notes, because I provide you the notes on my Telegram channel, Pooja Dwivedi UPSC, and Instagram. That is Pooja Dwivedi. You can talk to me here about strategy making, doubt clearance, anything. Okay. Let's begin. See, this is what we all have to know. We do not have to delve into all the sort of things that are going on in the Indian media. No, we are just going to ask ourselves what really happened, answer this, and majorly this, the bigger part of GS paper 1, communalism. All right, so let's begin with what is actually happening in New. See, recently, that is on the 31st of July, a procession was going to the temples of New, but they had to receive stones. They had to be hurled stones at by a group, a mob from a community, from a minority community. And this is not how it should be. But why all this happened? Because this Brij Mandal Jal Abhishek Yatra is a routine yatra. It wasn't something that was going for the first time. But what was the situation? Let's talk about that. So, Brij Mandal Jal Abhishek Yatra. This is organized by Vishwa Hindu Parishad, Bajrang Dal and Matri Shakti Durga Vahini. This generally takes place in the month of Sawan or Shravan. And what happens in this Jal Abhishek Yatra? Processions in which 5,000 to 6,000 people gathered in the Gurgaon's civil lines, they had to go to New. And once they reached Nalhar, and specifically Nalhar Kherla Mode, stones were pelted upon them by the Muslim side, by the Muslim group that was living there. And what happens that once the stone pelting starts, the Hindu group flees first, but later on they start retaliating. Both the sides now start retaliating. The bigger question is, how did they come across, how did the mob come across guns? By 4 p.m., we could see police stations, cyber security cells, vehicles these all were set ablaze. And by 5 p.m. onwards, Section 144 of the CRPC was imposed. More than 2,000 people actually were stranded into the Shiv temple. Rescue operations were going on. Many policemen died. Many people were killed. Of course, the official records won't show us that. Many were injured. An imam was killed by 4 people. This all has happened. Both the sides have taken good part in this. But it was all started because of Monu Manesar. Monu Manesar is a cow vigilante. Most of the cow vigilantes do not even care about cows. Most, not all. And he has been charged or booked for killing 2 Muslims in Bhiwani. And it was rumored that he is present in this procession. However, he claims that he wasn't there. At the behest of VHP, he said that he won't be there because VHP knew that if he is going to be there, then of course retaliation will be there. But is this the correct way to retaliate? Is this the correct way to take law and order in your own hands? If he was charged, then let law do the course. But here the bigger problem is, the overview of the problem is law and justice system, which is really in tatters in this country. Who fears law anymore? Just tell me that. When people do not have faith in the justice system, they will start taking justice in their own hands. So this was a highly emotionally charged experience the riots took. The bigger question here, what is that? How did they come across so many weapons which they shouldn't be possessing? And the Haryana government is saying, of course, it's a part of the bigger conspiracy. It was all prepared in advance. And this riot also spread to other parts. So this is what all has happened. In order to avenge the killing of those 2 Muslim men, the people who were in the VHP procession, just Jal Abhishek Yatra, why should that rally pay the price for it? Is this the correct way? No. Any group, be it majority, be it minority, be it any group, Hindu, Muslim, Christian, Jain, Buddhist, if they are setting, ablaze fire vans and, petrol pumps, these all will be a part of mob. They won't be seen from the perspective of religion anymore. Even if it is done by the majority, then it is a higher, crime. Because in a majoritarian state, it becomes the responsibility of the majority to set example. This is why we have majority privilege. Okay, so this happened, and now this has to take us to communalism. The bigger question after all these questions, the mother question I must call it, is communal violence. As you can see this grim picture led to Haryana government calling RAF, Rapid Action Force. Rapid Action Force is actually a central police force only, Central Action Force we can say, and it was raised in 1992. It deals with riots or riot-like situation. Now, Section 144 of the CRPC has been imposed. What is this section? Under this, the executive magistrate has the powers to prohibit an assembly of 4 or more people. If any assembly is found, then it will be called an unlawful assembly and people can be charged under that. Carrying of weapons are prohibited if somebody is carrying weapons, and this section has been already imposed, then that person can be imprisoned for up to 3 years. Public rallies, processions, these all are prohibited. Generally, right now, offices are functioning normally in Nu, but generally what happens, that educational institutes, offices get closed. Internet suspension is also under this only. Internet can be suspended under Section 144 of the CRPC. Not only that, but we have to understand how long it can be imposed. 2 months at max. But if the state government thinks that it can be extended for up to more 2 months, then they can do that. And then they can also do it for a maximum period of up to 6 months. It can be revoked anytime when peaceful situations again begin. Okay. Now, as I say that communalism is the bigger problem. What is this? This word communalism actually was used by the British. When they saw that different religious groups are living together, so why not divide them and rule over them? pit them against each other so that they can fight amongst each other. They do not come at us. So this was done specifically for India. It was a term which was used for other countries as well, but specifically for India. So in communalism, there is a strong attachment to one's own religion or one's own community. And this is seldom an unhealthy attachment. Unhealthy as in, you will start seeing your community better than everybody else's. So much so that you will feel that your political aspirations, your educational background, your economic background, your cultural background, your social background is much better than the others. And this causes division. This causes division that they are different, we are different. It creates us amongst them, us versus them. And when that happens, communalism, it becomes much more orthodox. So this is done by generally fundamentalists who do not want to let go of their orthodox elements, and it's an ideology in order to unify the community against the other community, not for the upliftment. Positives can be that people are united and they can look for upliftment, but negatives are more that you have to pit them against the other community. We are better than other community. We cannot live with the other community because their culture, their social background, economic background is very different from ours. Then orthodox tenets and principles are one of the characteristic features. Intolerance is another. So this is what communalism is. Of course, as I told you that British's policy of divide and rule, from here we got this communalism. We also paid the price by partition. Not only that, Hindu and Muslim revivalist movement was an offshoot of this. Both the communities had their own revivalist movements, and this was generally a negative movement, not reformist. They did not want to reform the communities, but they wanted to revive the ancient hatred that the Muslims had for Hindu and Hindus had for Muslims. This is what revivalist movements generally do. Not only that, but a communal and distorted view of Indian history is being taught. This was also the legacy of the British. Ancient India is Hindu India. Medieval India is Muslim India. But when the British came, it was modern India, not Christian India. This is how they distorted the history which is still being taught in our country. Separatist and isolation amongst the Muslims. Since the colonial times, the British told this time and again to the Muslims that you are very different from the Hindus, you do not belong together, you should be a separate nation, you should have your own ideological structure, you are a minority, we will give you reservation. So all this is a part of a bigger conspiracy that the British did for us, because they did not want to leave India peaceful. They wanted to ensure that, the world says that after the British went away, see, this country is, it's going into civil war. If this continues, I may say that if we do not structure the law and order system, this could be a bigger problem in the coming future, near future. There is rise of communal and fundamentalist party who want to achieve their own short-term political goals by sacrificing the welfare of the entire community. These leaders generally don't care about the community, very honestly. They just care about the short-term political achievement through sentiment attraction. This is what they do. Also, the tendency of the minorities to let go of their previous structure. As you can see, I'm not saying this. This is what a report has said, that literacy rate for Muslims, it's worse than for SC/STs. Because of the ongoing educational system for Muslims, it is really against the Western sciences. The Muslims which are orthodox, they look down upon those liberal Muslims who are going for higher education and Western education. This is the reality. So they don't care about the upliftment of the Muslims as a whole. They just care about them. The religious leaders care about that their own authority should not be diminished if they start studying Western sciences. And this could be true for the Hindus as well. But Hindu religious leaders right now do not have that much impact when it comes to the literacy part. We do not have more gurukuls as compared to the normal schools in which we are seeing that the majority community is going. But we do have madrasas, and these madrasas are okay. But if you also teach English, if you also teach Western education systems in them, so this is important. Because of this only they can, get uplifted and accepted in the educational structure that is going on, in the economic, assimilation that is going on. If they do not do that, how can they get assimilated? It is true for anyone, not only the Muslims, but any particular group. But because of this particular report, it has shown that lack of literacy can make your mind open to extremist ideology, radical ideologies. Then the leaders design, this is true for both Hindus, Muslims, Christians, Jains, whoever, is trying to actually say that you 2 or 3 groups cannot live together. Because of this, you need me. You need me as your protector. And most of the times it is just for their own interest. Nobody needs protection from each other. If a leader is creating a threat, then it is very easy to be called as a protector. So these particular communal riots are validating their point that the leaders are important for the protection of one particular community, be it Hindu, be it Muslim. Obscurantism and orthodoxy. If majority and minority, both these groups are sticking to their orthodoxy, then there is no open space for any sort of assimilation amongst them. Religion is a basis for finding commonality, finding interest in each other. But here, it's not so. Also, psychological factors. Since the very beginning, children at home, children at schools, they have been fed this ideology that groups cannot live together. And it's always us versus them. So until and unless we catch this psychological problem, we can never overcome this. There is also enemy country like Pakistan that are trying to channelize more and more funds for such activities which actually want to undermine the integrity of India. There is also the biggest role of media, which is trying to pit one group against the other. It's not so. It's not one group against the other. It's the irrelevant elements and disturbing elements against the peaceful elements. It's like that. It could be any group. Okay. So the role of media is really important in order to show the actual reality. Many are biased. They could be biased against the majority or against the minority. So here in this situation, it becomes really hard to have a clear picture, right? So right now India has, as of last, it told the parliament, the minister, important minister, that over 2,900 cases of communal or religious riots were registered between 2017 and 2021. This was according to the NCRB's data. And it was 378 cases of communal riots that were registered in 2021. This was down against 857 of 2020. And that was more than 438 of 2019. As you can see, Jharkhand and Maharashtra topped the communal riots in 2021 and with 177 cases respectively. This was the latest report. Another report will come soon. Ministry of Home Affairs has time and again given guidelines to the union territories and states in order to ensure that peace remains. But we need to do more than this. We need to reform the present criminal justice system. That is a must. Because if there is no speedy trial of those elements who have heard the communal sentiments, they can never be punished and people will think that the justice system is a failure, and when that happens, they will vent out in other forms. They will take law and order into their own hands. There should be an increase in representation of minorities across all strata. That can be done only when they are educated enough. That can be done only at the behest of the governments. That can be done only at the behest of the religious leaders, specifically for minorities. So it is important for them to be educated. We have already, the country has already provided the reservation to all the minorities that are present there. So it is important for us to understand that educational upliftment is very important for representation. If representation is given, they will not feel left out. Another thing is that there should be a codified guidelines for the administration when they are handling communal riots. Okay, many policemen have also lost their lives. Also, emphasis should be on value-oriented education. Constitution. Teach the children constitution from the very beginning. What does the preamble want? What is empathy? What is sympathy? All this. Government can also adopt Malaysia and Hong Kong model. In Malaysia, there is an early warning system for racial riots. How? Because through the Malaysian ethnic relation monitoring system, they measure different sorts of parameters such as education, health, life, quality on different indexes. When they see that some minority or some group is lagging behind, they will start working on that policy. So it is through that. Hong Kong also has a racial relation unit in which they try to take care of those children, rehabilitate those children who are victims of the communal riots or racial riots. and also try to enhance communal peace. Now, proactive approach should be done by National Foundation for Communal Harmony, which is a body made to ensure that communal peace remains. Another thing is that we need a proper legislation. Legislation on communal riots can spread awareness, rehabilitation, punitive measures and whatnot. If this is properly defined, then mob violence will be taken care of at the legal level. Okay, so I hope you understood all these parts. I also take daily current affairs. You can be a watcher of that as well. And map insights for those who are going to, who are facing problems with respect to map section. All right, so that's it. Thank you so much for watching.